Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Commoner Law's monthly free traveler confab. It's so great to be together with everyone again. We're going to have a wonderful couple of hours together where we get to dive deep into the questions of free travel. That means you and me, free Americans, able to travel wherever we want, when we want, without the permission of the government. Of course, this is a controversial subject, and there are a lot of people I'm sure you have talked to about this subject, and they see things differently. But we together here tonight share a common assumption that we do, in fact, have God-given rights, and that the government isn't instituted to tell us what to do. It's instituted to serve us based on our consent, the consent of the people. We have the opportunity to address any number of related subjects, the vehicle code itself, to whom the vehicle code may or may not apply, what to do if you happen to get pulled over, whether you have a driver's license or not, whether you have a registered vehicle or not, whether you have a license plate or not, and what to do roadside. We also will cover, if you care to, when we get to the discussion portion this evening, questions of what to do if you do get a ticket. Do you go to court? Do you just ignore it? What do you do? And then just the general broader questions of what it means to be a free person on the land. We all recognize that the fraud that the vehicle code is and the mentality that people have about the statutory rules apply to so many other aspects of life where the government presumes the authority to tell us what to do. So, welcome everybody. We do have a special guest tonight, so I'm really excited about that. It's always wonderful when we have someone who's willing to come forward and talk with us about their actual personal firsthand experience of being roadside, getting pulled over, and not simply complying, not doing, what a lot of people do, and that is just follow the rules and comply. Our guest, SteVAN, the model anarchist, did just that. He had an encounter roadside. We sent the video out, a link to it, to have you view it in advance. So hopefully some of you have seen it already. However, if you haven't, we'll watch it again up front here so that we can take a look at it and have it be fresh in our minds. And then we'll hear from SteVAN about what he was thinking, what the experience was like going through it, and maybe even now, after all this time has passed, what he thinks about it. Might he have done things any differently? So again, welcome everybody. It's so wonderful to be together. I'm just personally, I have to say there's something about this week. I've just seen too many examples online of just infringement of government overreach, and I'm fed up. I'm just, normally you find me, I'm generally pretty even keeled, and I'll try to be that way tonight. But yeah, everything from the World Health Organization to just criminality on the streets from our law enforcement, and just so much injustice and so much tolerance of injustice by the people just is really got me in a mood tonight. But that makes it really ever more so important that I can be with you guys tonight. And my faithful co-host David Rodriguez as well. How are you, David? Talk me down, or talk me up. I don't know.
No, great introduction. Thank you, Clint. Great to be with you. SteVAN, I see you in the wings. Great to be with you as well. And yeah, the Free Travelers Call, man. This is once a month we get to really remember that we are free men and women on the earth, and we get to travel freely. And the question is how each of us work out our own path. And I'm happy to see people exercising their freedoms, whether you have a license or no license. We've had Bob Dixon on. The church owns his vehicle, and that's his angle, and he's had some really great stories to share. And even my own stories, having private plates in my car and trying to talk with cops on the side of the road. It's a very empowering thing to do, to realize if you are calm, as we'll see SteVAN's video tonight. Calmness and just peace is a very strong position to be versus you know, when we were maybe younger and we're trying to yell at the cops or something like that. And it's like, they're just doing their job. They're not the bad dudes at the top. They just have not found their moral code. And that's what's so exciting now is there's a great awakening happening. People are starting to find morality again, which is don't initiate harm against peaceful people. You know, this seems to be the unifying principle, and we're not bound to contracts we didn't sign. So SteVAN's got a great channel on Instagram. Take a look there. He made some of the clips of the video so you can enjoy it. And that aliveness of exercising our freedom, I think, is probably deep in my soul, maybe in you guys as well. Like, you can feel it. And I'm glad, Clint, you're on something tonight, because, you know, people who did research, we've been on it for a long time, and we have to transmute that energy versus I hate you guys because they're under mind control. And we are coming out as well. We're awakening. So it's going to be a great show, and I'm grateful to see all the attendees on as well. You guys make it happen, and you guys are in your own right, exercising your freedoms. And that's why every month we have an exciting new guest. And, you know, the videos are up on Commoner Law on YouTube and Rumble, and where else you can put them, you know, put these videos out there. So great to be with you all tonight, and we're going to have an amazing show. Welcome to the show, SteVAN.
Glad to be here.
I want people to make sure they've seen the video. It's 20 minutes long, so I'm going to put it at twice the speed, which in a way, well, it's going to help us get through it, but in a way, it kind of ruins the pace, because that's actually a big part of it. Your pace is wonderful and slow in a way, so that's a big part of it, but we'll have to sacrifice that. People can, as they're watching, just make the adjustment that realize that this is happening in twice as much time and that I'm doing it double speed. Is there anything you want to say before I hit play?
No, I think let's just watch it and then we'll chat about it afterwards.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
I mean, the truth is that you know, the state is ran by very evil people, man. And I just don't need permission to drive from guys that wage war all over the world and do terrible things to children. Okay. I guess you could say I'm a tax protester.
Okay. Do you have insurance for the vehicle?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
And to help you out, I probably have a bench warrant out for non-payment to traffic court.
Okay.
I'm not a bad
Any
dude.
alcohol drinking tonight?
Oh, no, sir.
When was the last time you had any alcohol?
Probably like last Thursday, maybe.
Last Thursday? Okay. Where are you living right now? I don't think it's still valid. Okay. So just out of curiosity, so you gave back your driver's license because the people who run the state of California are evil.
Well, not just the state, but the entire government. I just, you know,
Do you have a passport?
because if I don't have a passport, it's just so difficult to navigate the system. I make small compromises just like everybody else does, but I try to live as authentically to my belief system as possible, man.
Okay. I just trying to understand. So
I have a really hard time allowing the system to utilize my efforts to wage war all over the place, man, all over the place. And so
okay.
that's not.
Do you believe in following? Do you believe that everybody should follow the rules?
I believe that everybody should follow the natural laws of human interaction. Those are the rules ingrained within each and every one of us. But the rules that, oh, my apologies. I believe that each and every one of us have the natural laws of human interaction ingrained within. So it basically says all interaction should be voluntary. And so I believe in those rules, but I don't believe in the rules imposed upon us by a system that is obviously broken and not serving the people and perpetuates poverty and war. And so I just.
So then, if the government didn't wage war, would you get registration, insurance, and a driver's license?
I would certainly be open to engaging with systems that were based on voluntary interactions that were good ideas. There's a lot of things about the DMV and about the government and about law enforcement that are good ideas, but when there's literally a gun to my head, you know, these lights are intimidating. You got a gun on your hip.
The gun is not to your head. I haven't touched it once since I walked up.
It's figurative, right? I mean, if you were off duty, you wouldn't have stopped me because
I don't have the authority to stop you from that one.
exactly. And your authority is derived from your belief in government. I just don't believe in government. It's a really terrible idea that's caused so much suffering. Really?
Do you have any weapons? Buddy?
Oh, no, sir.
No. I can get rid of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Every time you vote, you just vote to support more of the system, more of the tyranny.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So here is your passport back.
Oh, thank you.
I checked. You do not have any bench warrants.
Oh, I don't. Oh my God, you made my night.
You're
Oddly enough.
completely honest with me. You surrendered your driver's license. Your license is expired, like you mentioned. Unfortunately, we do live in a representative government where we elect people who make laws for us, and some of those laws that you have.
I don't vote. I didn't like it.
That's the society we live in. Okay, those are laws that were enacted.
I agree.
So I understand that you don't agree with those laws. Totally understand that. But based on those laws, I am going to issue you a citation for not having a license.
Okay.
Or not having insurance, and a fixed ticket for not having the registration. Okay. The registration, the insurance. Well, let me start with the registration. If you get the registration brought up to date, I understand you don't want to, but if you do that, can be signed off. Okay. Insurance cannot be signed off by officers, but if you get insurance, sometimes the judges will sign those off. It's correctable. Okay. And actually, as a matter of fact, no driver's license is a correctable violation as well. That can be corrected through the courts as well.
Okay.
So you don't want to do that. I totally understand that. But those are the laws, and those are what's required based on the municipality we live in. Okay.
Hey, what was your first name?
Matt.
Matt, I'm Steve, man.
Steven?
I genuinely feel like you heard me tonight, and I appreciate that.
I disagree with how you got to where I disagree with where you got to, but I understand how you got there.
You've seen how crazy the world's been over the last 3
It
years.
is.
Yeah.
But we live in a republic, which means that whether or not you vote or not, right? We don't get to vote directly on the laws. We elect people to vote or to pass those laws. I don't always agree with all those laws.
Sure.
But I'm charged with upholding those laws, right?
I get you.
So I'm not going to give an opinion on whether I believe with these laws, but these are my job.
Sure.
To enforce those laws,
Mhm.
to make sure people don't speed, make sure they don't steal cars, right? To make sure they don't violate your rights.
I'm all for having a system where we seek justice and make remedy for a victim. And I'm all for that. I love that.
I'm gonna issue a citation this today. I'm gonna ask that you sign this red box by saying you're not admitting any guilt. Your response is gonna take care of this matter with the court. Okay?
Sure. I'm put my key back in, so
Reach into your vehicle. Would you mind rolling that?
Yeah.
A little bit?
I just put my key back in so I can do that a little bit.
So
Thank you.
in that red box, by where your thumb is,
Sure.
not an admission of guilt. Your response is gonna take care of this matter with the court. Just be advised that if you don't seek some sort of resolution with them, whether that's just, hey, I'm guilty, I'm gonna pay the fine, I don't want to correct any of these, I'm just gonna pay it, or you get all this stuff taken care of, whatever you do, just make sure you do so. You contact the court and you set something up, because if you don't, they will issue a bench warrant.
Sure.
So, and then they will likely suspend your driver's license.
Well, I don't have one to suspend.
On that note, hey,
Sure.
not having a driver's license, your vehicle could be impounded
I
for up to 30 days.
know.
I'm not gonna do that today because you have been so respectful.
I really appreciate that. I really do.
I'm gonna advise you that you aren't allowed to drive. I'm not, you're an adult, I'm not gonna babysit you.
Thank you.
But if I go down the road and I happen to see you later and I stop you, I've told you that you're not supposed to drive, and then I'm kind of left with little choice but to impound your vehicle.
Sure.
So
I
if
get
there's
it.
somebody that you know that can come pick up the car, it's really cool, that has a license, you want to park it here and just, basically I'm telling you that you're not allowed to drive on the road without a license.
Are you letting me go home tonight with my citation?
Not with you driving. You can't, I'm giving you a lawful order not to drive the vehicle if you don't have a driver's license.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
This is your copy of the citation. The phone number for the court is right here on the back. The set of instructions. It talks about correctable violations down here and how to correct them. There's also a website address up here at the top you can visit. Either way, it'll give you the phone number or the website. We'll get
Sure.
you to the location where they will get you your information to resolve this matter with the court.
So-
So, any questions on me before I leave?
What you're saying right now is I need to have somebody come pick me up. If you see this car on the road tonight going home, you're going
So
to
yeah, don't
arrest
think
me.
if somebody else. No, I'm not gonna arrest you. I mean, I could because I gave you a lawful order to be disregarded.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that if somebody else stops you, they don't know that I told you that I gave you a lawful order. But they could run your license and see that you don't have a driver's license and just elect to impound your vehicle right there and then.
I know.
I'm
I
saying
know
that
that's a risk I take.
I work in this area and it's 3:11 a.m.
Yeah.
A lot of cars on the road. If I see your car driving and you're in the driver's seat, I know, I have personal knowledge that you don't have a license. I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna impound the car because I gave you a lawful order not to drive.
Matt, will you grant me the permission to make it home tonight? I'll make it home tonight
I
and
can't
we
do
can
that.
take care of
You
this.
basically have told me that through the way you've explained your worldview is that you're not gonna get a driver's license. It's not like you're like, oh shoot, man, I completely forgot that it expired.
Sure, I get that. I
Like
get that.
you've made that you surrendered your driver's license.
Yeah,
You made the purchase
142.
to give up your right to drive.
But you know that doesn't make me unsafe. You didn't pull me over for suspicion of dangerous driving.
No, I understand
If
that.
it was
but
new,
the law is
it would be
law,
so much
and I know
easier.
you don't agree with that, and we disagree on that idea and that principle. But it's a combination of the fact that you don't have insurance, you don't have
I
registration,
drive very
you don't.
carefully.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
You're using the roads and you're not paying for it.
I serve my community a lot.
Okay,
I really do.
But
I really,
California
really
pays
do.
for the roads off the motor vehicle fund, which is paid through out of the registration of the vehicle.
Which you're threatening. If I don't pay, you're going to steal my car from me.
I would impound the vehicle if you don't have a driver's license, and that's what the vehicle says.
All of that is at its root. You're coercing me through the threat of force that I've got to pay. And I don't want to get caught up in those arguments tonight. I would really like to make, if it was noon, it would be so much easier to call them.
I
But it's not
understand.
new,
What
it's
I'm
free
telling you is that I'm giving you a lawful order, and I stand by that lawful order that you're not to drive a vehicle without a driver's license. If you do choose to drive, you run the risk of having your vehicle impounded. Okay? I think I've been more than fair and not just impound your vehicle off the start.
I
after you told me,
really
because you
appreciate
told
that.
me, right? I mean, honestly, I probably should, based on what you told me, because
I don't think
I know
you
that you're not going to get a driver's license. I have reason to believe that you're probably not going to correct the registration or the insurance because you don't believe that you have to or you need to. Okay? But I'm telling you what the California Vehicle Code says.
Yeah, I know.
And whether or not you agree with it, you, by getting behind the wheel of a vehicle, you agree to abide by those laws. Whether or not you're going to,
Sure.
that's what you agree to do. When you get behind the wheel of a vehicle, when you get on the road, that's regulated by law. If you're on your own property, you're driving on your own property, aside from drinking and driving, you can do whatever you want, right? As long as it's not endangering somebody else.
I get you.
But we're on public roadway, which is maintained by public funds, which are paid for by the motor vehicle fund, which is paid for by paying our registration. Right? That car
The
right there.
DMV has never been audited, so I don't know where that money goes. They don't audit the DMV. They never have. It comes up every year, but they always say no, we're not going to audit the DMV. So I really don't know where the money goes.
Okay, well, they're not printing the money and just making it up.
They're just taking it from all of us.
So what?
They're just taking it from all of us
Yeah, when you pay your registration.
under the threat of force.
Well, ultimately, yeah, that's how laws are enforced.
Yeah, well, at its core.
Murder is enforced by law enforcement to prevent you from murdering somebody else.
But murder creates an injured party. Me driving down the road, not paying the DMV doesn't create an injured party. I'm actually the injured party in the situation.
Like 40 to 50,000 people die every year at the hands of vehicle, right?
And it has nothing to do with licensing or registration. Registration doesn't stop
Make
it.
sure that people comply with the rules of the road. Right? You have to pass a test, and whether or not that test is strict enough, it is a basic standard that says that you are safe to drive a vehicle.
I haven't been tested since I was 16. Nobody's checked on me since I was
You
16.
don't
I
have
was an idiot.
You don't have a license.
Well, not in,
You haven't gone and taken your license test.
no, I did. I had a license until 2019. December 2019. That's when I returned it.
In 4 years, you haven't had a license, so you have to
Correct.
recheck.
Well, and I haven't been rechecked since 95 through 2019. I was never rechecked. I just paid my fees and renewed my license every however many years it took.
So if you want them to change the rules on how licenses are issued, vote and vote for somebody who says that they'll do what you want them to do.
But then
That's how representative government works.
That's how it's supposed to work, but it never works that way. No matter who's in office,
So then run for
Please,
office.
I can't morally accept money that is ill-gotten
So
gains.
don't take the money.
How can I run for office and not take any money? What am I going to do to feed myself?
Grassroots campaign. I'm giving
No,
you
I'm saying if I had a job, if I got elected.
I'm giving you options on how to work past the issues that you have with government. I'm telling you, you live in a country that is governed. All countries have governments.
And I think just
If
because everybody's going to
the way
screw.
this country's run, you can find a different location that doesn't have these rules, so that way you can live your life the way that you see fit. But until you
That's
do
the
that, you live
problem.
in this country, you live in this state, which has these laws that you have to obey by. What I'm telling you is that based on those laws, I'm giving you a lawful order not to drive, and if you drive, your vehicle will be subject to being impounded.
All right.
So
Yeah, I appreciate how kind you've been up to
in
this point.
country, you have free will, but with those decisions come consequences.
I homeschool my daughter.
I homeschool my daughter too.
If it wasn't 3 o'clock in the morning, it would be so much easier to get a ride. I would just really appreciate it if I could just,
I cannot do that.
if you see me tomorrow, give me.
I can't. We can't make a trade. This isn't a bartering system.
I'm not asking for a trade. I'm just asking for a little bit of leniency because I'm not a bad guy. You have. I just want to be able to make it home without my vehicle down also.
And I know, and I understand that you want to make it on. I stopped you for a simple basic infraction for the expired registration, and lo and behold, I discover what I discovered. I didn't stop you because I knew that this is what the result of this was going to be.
Sure,
I stopped you to find out what the issue was and find out what the compliance was with the registration. And lo and behold, you don't have insurance, you don't have a driver's license. I can't change that. Only you can. Right? I didn't put myself in this position. You put yourself in this position, and now I'm forced to act.
In fairness, you put me in this position.
No,
Well, look, if you didn't have that gun, I wouldn't even be listening to you. I'd be on my way. But it's the overall threat of force. If I don't listen to you,
nothing you've done today would cause you to even touch my gun.
no. The point is, if I were to drive this car, if I were to resist you and pounding my car, if I were to try to drive home, then that would encourage you to use your gun. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't use my gun to do that.
But I would just naturally resist being kidnapped.
That kind of resistance would rise to the threat of deadly force.
And that's fair because I'm not, I can't ever win on the side of the road with a police officer. Just, I said I could never win on the side of the road with a police officer in a forceful situation. It would never work out.
You're in violation of the law. Whether or not you agree with that, that's the law in the book in the municipality that you live in.
You know, the Declaration of Independence, the very first rule for government is that government derives its powers from the consent of the governed. So I've withdrawn my
by
consent.
voting for people who pass laws.
I don't consent.
It doesn't matter if you consent.
I know that.
People, you lost that election. Why not? And for not voting for people who pass laws that you agree with.
But it never happens. The people that win elections never do what people want. That the people who win elections never actually do what the populace wants.
It's a separate issue.
Now, this is why I don't vote.
vote.
My vote's wasted. I don't want to waste my time.
It's not a wasted vote. Because if you and everybody else like you thinks that way and they never vote, guess what? You're never going to affect the change that you want to see happen.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I think not voting is a bigger voice than voting.
Let's have a political debate.
I get you. I get you.
I'm walking you through with how I got here to where I am. Okay.
All
I'm
right.
not just doing it because I'm badge hungry or badge heavy or power happy. People voted. We got laws. One of those laws enacted California Highway Patrol, and as part of our agreement and consent with the people of California is to.
I didn't consent.
You don't have to consent. You get behind the wheel of a vehicle, and by doing so, you consented.
So again, I'm forced. So I really appreciate how you've been tonight. I really, really do. I got less than.
And I'm sorry, that shouldn't happen. Okay.
I agree, 'cause I'm
You
not
also
that
should be in compliance with the law.
I don't agree with that. But I understand how you come to that point. I get it. I get it.
So I don't agree with carpool, but I have to stay out of the carpool lane. I know it's a very small example of that, but that's the law. I don't agree with it, but I have to follow it. If I don't, I'm gonna get a ticket. If I don't pay that ticket, I'm gonna get fines, and I'm gonna go to jail for one.
Technically, the signs say two or more persons, and a person with the legal definitions, a corporation is included in that. So if you have a trust, you can drive in the carpool lane. Corporations qualify as people. I get it. I get you. I'm just splitting hairs on legalese.
Again, I've given you a legal order not to drive. How you interpret that and what you do with that is up to you. I'm just telling you that you take an extreme risk by driving tonight.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I hope I've answered any of your questions. I'm sorry that this had to be the final conclusion to this.
It didn't have to be that. It didn't have to be. You could let me make it home tonight without going. Let me just go.
But
I'm
I'm
really
not
into
taking
it,
more time, Stephen. Thank you for being so cordial with me because I've had interactions that didn't go like this.
Sure,
And I
I get
appreciate at least your respect and candor with me. So I'm gonna be on my way. Like I said, you have a legal, lawful order not to drive. If you drive, you run the risk of having your vehicle now. Okay.
Hey, at what point do you go east?
What point do I go east? Well, I'm not gonna tell you that.
I know.
All right, Stephen. Good luck to you. Be safe tonight.
Yeah, thanks, man.
November 5th, 2024. Take your plates off. All right. Yeah, man, that time's coming. That's what this call's all about. That was amazing, Stephen. Great job educating him and throwing out
Thanks.
so many key points on that one. Sheesh.
Thank you.
There's just no coincidences in life. To me, it was the perfect matchup. The model anarchist, the free man against the benevolent rule enforcer.
Yeah.
So it kept you.
Blaming the victim. That's rich, man. Jeez,
Yeah.
you can see the programming. The cops are under. It's like you're causing this. No, I'm causing it. Like they have no idea of how like morality and initiation. And man, you pulled out consent and so many great nuggets. I hope everybody goes and watch that and take notes because I think what you did was amazing. Just staying calm and letting them know. And you saw his position, and there's no reason to push it because sounds like you made it home that night, or did you not? I don't understand if you made it home safely or not.
So I was headed west on the freeway when he pulled me over because that's where my home was. And then after he left me, I saw him get on the westbound freeway on ramp. And so I took the side streets east and just went back to my friend's house and just hung out there until I figured he was off shift, and then made it the rest of the way home, and I was okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So what was that like in the moment? I can tell you had frustration, but not overwhelming frustration. You had some kind of compassion almost, it seemed to. I mean, what was going on with you in those moments?
So, I went through kind of like a swing in emotion, when the lights first hit you, it's that, oh shit, because they're designed to intimidate you. And now you're put into, I'm under attack. Right. And so your heart starts beating 1,000 miles an hour, and this was one of the first times I've ever been pulled over by law enforcement where they used their speaker to direct me into which parking lot they wanted me to go because we were on the freeway. Right. So when the last thing he says when he gets out of his car, over the speaker is roll all 4 of your windows down. And so my heart's going 1,000 miles an hour and I'm already feeling like, oh man, I got a bad one tonight, you know, because it sounded just so like aggressive. And so I didn't roll all four of my windows down. And when police come up, I just roll my window down just a crack. You know, it's plenty of space to talk. And pretty early on in our conversation, I kind of felt like, okay, maybe he's not quite as anxious to beat somebody up as what he sounded like, telling me to roll all four of my windows down. I've never heard that before. And so over the initial part of our conversation, up until the point he took my passport and went back to a squad car, I was getting myself emotionally into the acceptance. You know, anything that happens from here on out's out of my control. I can't control this guy. You know what I mean? And so, especially that 9 minutes that he spent at a squad car, I was really able to kind of like breathe a little bit, think about what I want to say and what's going on. And then when he told me he was giving me a citation, it occurred to me like, oh shit, he's not going to impound my car. He's not going to arrest me tonight. And so there was a little bit of relief and a little bit of, you know, on my end. And then toward the end of it all, I don't know why I kept talking so long. I kept thinking to myself, he's letting you go, just shut your mouth. But sometimes, you know, that need to preach the good word just comes out of you. And so I had a nice big range of emotions. And then on the drive back to my friend's house, there was a lot of looking in my rear view mirror. I felt like a paranoid lunatic because I was like, is that car a cop? Is that car a cop? Did the highway patrol follow me? Because right before I left, I walked about 50 feet both ways up and down the sidewalk to make sure there wasn't any more highway patrol hanging out back there. And then yeah, I made it back to my friend's house and then eventually made it home around noon.
So what inspired you to do this? And is this the first time that you've ever done this? Like, how is that initiation process? You're like, because I got to that point too, where like, I know I'm contributing to the slavery on the planet. I don't like it, and all these fees and all this money. So that sounds like kind of the point you got to. And your channel, you do a lot of this stuff too. So you can share kind of like other things of not participating in the state. But this is was this your first time, or what inspired that?
No, okay. So this is actually the second time I've been pulled over without license, insurance, or registration. Mm-hmm. Right. So we'll start with what inspired that, and then I'll tell you how that encounter went went for me. Yeah. But I'd say back around 2018, I had I just kind of went through this real like spiritual awakening. I came to a point to I grew up in the Christian church, and then in my early 20s or all through my 20s and the beginning of my 30s, I accepted there is no God. I abandoned belief completely because my understanding of God as a child was just so convoluted with contradictions. It didn't make sense. And it couldn't possibly be what the reality of our, the nature of our reality is. But then around 2017, I kind of went through this spiritual awakening, listening to a lot of different stuff like Alan Watts, a lot of older philosophers, and then some current guys. And so I was able to formulate this understanding of God on a level that had so many fewer contradictions, and contradictions that were there just kind of kept falling off. And at that same time was around the time I was coming through a lot of political realizations too, like this political awakening that, oh my God, there is no difference between Team Red and Team Blue. It's the same shit. No matter what, they keep screwing us harder and harder and harder and harder every year. So as I started to understand our divine gifts, the nature of creation, giving us all this gift of sovereignty and the experience of the universe through this limited perspective, I started to understand that nobody else should be directing my behaviors that don't cause any injured parties, that aren't actually hurting anybody, And so as I went through this, I really started getting mad about the DMV and my driver's license. Like, that was the thing I was getting the most upset about. Like, and I even asked these questions as a kid, the contradictions that I felt about God as a kid. I had a lot of those same contradictions I felt about government. Mm-hmm. What do you mean we're free if we have to have a driver's license? Or, in school, they would teach us in history, the English left England because they didn't want to have to ask the king's permission to go hunt a deer. And I was thinking, even as an elementary school kid, I was like, what's the difference between that and a permit from the government? It's the exact same thing. Like you're pissing down my back and telling me it's raining, and I don't like it. But the driver's license thing was a thing that I really focused on. You know, as a working person, I worked primarily for tips, and you know, I never claimed any of them. You know, when I was doing my tax return, I was just filling out you know, customer service as my job title, and I paid cash for everything. I lived completely under the radar. I never owned a house or anything. That was the price you pay. It's a lot harder when you don't claim any of your income to qualify for the loans to, you know, all that stuff. So anyway, so I was really focused on the driver's license thing, and I came to this belief that the DMV is directly responsible, or one of the largest contributors to poverty, because the preventing people from being able to move around. And so before, the argument I always get initially when I say that is, well, you can still ride a bike, you can still go walk, you can go get a horse, and it's like, that's just not reasonable, you idiot. Okay, like it is completely natural for us to have complete access to the technology of the world into which we were born. And so if everything about what humans are doing is set up to have roads and cars, anybody should have access to roads and cars until you prove you shouldn't, not the other way around. So it was 2019, I had to renew my driver's license. And so I renewed the driver's license, and I changed my gender status to gender non-binary, because it was just also ridiculous to me. And something that became very apparent to me when I got up, and I had, because I was nervous that I checked like I'm gender non-binary. I thought they were going to ask me to prove something, and all they asked me to do is sign a piece of paper that says this is what I believe about myself. So I said, okay. And then I started thinking, you know what? If I came up here, if I was a one-legged man coming up and talking to the director of the DMV, and I asked for a handicap placard, they'd make me get a doctor's note. You know, but here I can change my gender, and all I got to do is say, this is what I believe about myself. And that had actually been tying into a lot of the spiritual awakening I was having, in particular about the power of I am and how powerful that is, right? And so it was around like March, April of 2019, I was planning on quitting my job. I said, I got to get out of the system. I got to get completely out of the system. I don't want to have a job. I want to live a life that doesn't look anything like the life I'm currently living. And so one of the things I did before I ended up quitting my job was in December of 2019, I took my driver's license back to the DMV, and I used Form DL-142. That's the one that you need at the DMV now. And that surrenders your driver's license, which in my opinion releases me from my obligation to be bound by the vehicle code. So, and if you want to do this yourself in California, you can, it's Form DL-142. You got to print it off the internet because they don't keep them in the DMV. And any DMV employee that you hand it to will be very confused, and they'll call their friends over because nobody does this, but we should all be doing it. So anyway, so I gave them, and then the lady, I gave her the license plates off my car back also. And she goes, why are you giving me these? I go, well, they're not mine. They say California on them. I don't want them. California doesn't own my car anymore. I'm under no obligation because I don't have the driver's license. I got out of my obligation to register my private vehicle to you. And then I go, oh, and I hope I don't get killed on my way home by some cops who don't understand or something. And then she kind of looks around and she goes, yeah, it's getting a little Gestapo-ish out there, isn't it? I go, yeah, of course you see it. You're on the inside.
Exactly.
You know, she spends her whole day seeing people being frustrated over things they shouldn't be frustrated over, right? So I had went to some vanity website and I printed up my own license plates, and I used the font that California uses on theirs, and I just wrote boycott. And then I had a little text above and below that said, neither crown nor collar.
That's awesome.
So I was followed more than 5 times before they finally pulled me over. And I was like, oh, every time your heart starts going as soon as you see him in your rear view.
Yeah.
So anyway, the time I finally get pulled over is by city cops. And by the time he turns his lights on, I'm pulling up in front of my house. So, I mean, of all the places I could be pulled over, I'm getting pulled over right in front of my house. And he comes up to the window and he goes, I pulled you over for vehicle code, blah, 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 blah. You don't have a license plate on your car. I need to see your driver's license or your ID or whatever. And I go, officer, it's my understanding that you're not allowed to ask for my identification unless you can articulate a crime you suspect me of committing. And he says, well, I just told you the crime, vehicle code, blah, 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 blah. I go, oh, officer, that's code. Code's not law. Violating code isn't a crime. And code doesn't apply to everybody. And so he gets on his radio and starts calling out backup because I don't know why. So he starts calling out backup, and then all of a sudden, another squad car shows up, and they're putting spike strips in front of my car. They got the rear squad car parked up right back to my bumper. And again, there was no reckless driving. There was no suspicion of impairment. There was no hit and run, nothing.
Oh my God.
Right.
That's
So
great.
I drove around with the boycott license plates from December of 2019 until the end of February 2020.
Okay.
And so my exit plan from my job was February 28th, 2020. Okay. So from December till the end of February, I drove with the boycott plates, and then I got pulled over by city cops. And when they pulled me over, it was right in front of my house. And they eventually ended up with about 10 cops out. Okay, I'm surrounded. I got cops on all four doors constantly checking the handles to see if it's open. And everything's calm. We're all calm and cool, man. Because you know what? Even if you get into a physical encounter with a police officer on the side of the street, even as an unarmed person, even if I were to best the officer in the moment, it's not over for me. The entire police force in all of the country will look for me. I can't win that much. So if you want to, I can beat you in court because I'm smarter than most of them. And I don't want to be like arrogant, but like with Matthew, when we were talking to him, there's a lot of things that he was saying that you would expect a child to say. The reasoning logic like a child does. And it's not that it's a higher intelligence level. It's just a better understanding of things and a more honest look at how things actually are. What's fiction and what's nonfiction. Right. Children have a hard time discerning those things. And once you become an adult, you have a better opportunity to discern those things. So anyway, back to the first time I was pulled over, eventually they wore me down. And because I kind of told myself I should take it as far as I can, because I wanted to identify myself as part of, I think, why he called out 9 cops. I should have taken it up to the point to where they had to smash my window to get me out of the car. But after about 45 minutes in front of my house, where all my neighbors are now out on the street watching, why are there 9 cops around SteVAN out there? I was just kind of worn out. And so I agreed to open up the car and let them take me out. And to their credit, they didn't hurt me. Nobody twisted my arm extra hard. But again, I wasn't taking the aggressive approach, but I was taking the educational approach. I was trying to tell this cop that I know the law better than he does. And they don't like that. Like at one point, I think when he knew he was definitely going to arrest me, I asked him, I go, you swore an oath to the Constitution to protect my rights. Exactly what I'm telling you right now. Why aren't you upholding your oath? And he says, look, man, I'm not an expert on the Constitution. And I said, well, how am I supposed to have any faith or respect for a man that swears an oath to something he doesn't understand? And that was, I could see it in his eyes, like, oh shit, I guess I'm getting arrested tonight. So anyway, they take me, I'm in lockup for like 4.5 hours, and then they let me go. No bail or anything like that. So that was late February, right? And so I was quitting February.
The charges were driving without a license or what?
So on the citation, it was interfering with an officer's investigation because I wouldn't identify myself. And then driving without a license, no registration. Oh, and they did impound my car. They took from right in front of my house. They took my car, and the cop even told me when he was taking me in, he goes, if you just identified yourself, we wouldn't have taken your car. I go, well, you sound like a bigger prick now than you did before. Okay. Like, what a childish response.
Exactly.
You know, you're proving my point here. So yeah, it had the three: registration, insurance, and actually they never even asked about my insurance, so I don't even know if they wrote that on the citation. And then interfering with an officer's investigation. But then when my court date came and I went to that, it was just driving without a license. That was it. But part of that might have been because they impounded my car. I went the next day to go get it. The impound yard guy wouldn't give it to me. He said, I got to get a release from the police department. So I went to the police department and they said, well, we're not going to give you a release unless you pay the DMV, because my DMV registration expired in November, the previous November. And so they ended up selling my car before my court date. They didn't even wait to find out if I was in the right or not. And I don't even know how they did that, because I still had a loan on the car. And a few months later, the bank started calling me and going, hey, we want that car back. You haven't been making those payments. And I go, oh, that car was stolen. And she goes, well, you need a police report. I go, well, the police are the ones that stole it. Yeah. Like, how did they even sell it without you guys knowing that where it was?
Right. You know? Sheesh.
Yeah. So after a lot of self-reflection on that event right there, I realized I think it's pretty futile to attempt to educate an officer on the side of the road coming from like, I know the law better than you do. And so I had kind of been telling myself, next time I get pulled over, and the tags that were expired on my car, they expired in July of 22. And the only reason why they were good as far as July of 22 is because that's just what it was when I bought it. It wasn't, when I bought it, it was still registered and it felt kind of safe. Because I'm like, I drive safe, I don't get pulled over.
Hey, just a little note for the listeners: you're noticing the evolution that many of us have gone through, where we try to hold court on the side of the road and be Mr. I'm a traveler. You don't know your laws, and you push it so far. And for me, in my experience, I got arrested a couple times for not identifying myself. And the cops were kind of the same way. They're kind of like, if you would have identified yourself, we would just give you a court citation. And I was like, well, I was kind of testing the waters, man. I'm kind of seeing how it is out here. And it turns out they will kidnap you if you don't identify. But then if you sign their fraudulent contract and promise to appear, they'll leave you alone. So we're like learning how to dodge the bullets and understand the world that we live in. Because as you guys are listening to this in the audience, you'll have to face this at some point too. At some point, we're going to stop participating in this criminal enterprise, the city, county, state, and federal governments, and be like, we're actually empowering them. And us being afraid of, going in the clink for 4 hours or something, that's stopping it. Whereas people like Martin Luther King and Gandhi, they were like, let's fill up the jails. Everybody goes to jail. So it's nice to hear your evolution. I'm curious how many more times you've got arrested for the right to travel, or the progression of the story. Feel free to take us wherever you want to go.
Well, that's the only time I've been arrested for it. And that was the first time I was pulled over for it, got arrested. And then the video we watched earlier was the second time. But I decided I'm going to take the approach of trying to reach the humanity of the man wearing the costume. So as my spiritual beliefs have progressed, and I've really had a focus on, I want to make sure I categorize things that are tangible versus things that aren't tangible, right? So everything in our 3D environment is tangible. My body is tangible, my car is tangible, this other person's tangible. Things that are intangible are ideas and belief systems, right? And so if I sit there and try and tell this guy I know the law better than him, then what I'm doing is I'm reinforcing his belief system in the legitimacy of his imagination of government.
Right.
So I know he's human. I can reach the human side. So I don't even want to argue the law. If I get drugged into court and I got to play the government game, because it is a game, then I'll play it there. On the side of the road, you know what I want to play? I want to play the get home game without a punch in the face. And so the best way to do that is appeal to the other person's humanity, right? And so that was the approach that I took here. And that's why I was just like, here's my passport, whatever. I don't mind identifying myself because I just want to get home. I'm playing the get home game tonight. And I want to, we know what people like to hear. Not enough people remember to vocalize the things that they appreciate about somebody they're interacting with in the moment. right? And like Matt, he kind of reiterated, he goes, I don't think you're going to correct this. I don't think you're going to correct that. I don't think, and I go, hey, Matt, I feel like you really heard me tonight, and I appreciate that. And that wins, you know, that creates an energetic bond between people. We're friends now. Whether you like it or not, you like me. And you're less likely to punch me in the face if you like me. Right.
Great
So
point.
that was just kind of the strategy I went. So again, back to what I started that with was the difference between the tangible and the intangible is where we have to start understanding how we're supposed to engage with each other. Right? All of our belief systems are intangible. My belief that there is no government or in anarchy or whatever it is that I believe is just as valid for me as it is for somebody else to believe what they believe. And it's okay that somebody else doesn't believe what I believe, because I'm confident in my beliefs. But on the real level, on what's real, what's tangible, our bodies to bodies, we need to go, we're not going to hurt each other. Right. And we all know, we all have the natural laws of human interaction ingrained within each and every one of us. And so we all know that as long as we're not causing an injured party, nobody has the moral authority to make you do something you don't want to do. Right. If that makes sense. Right. And so belief systems are not tangible. Right. So what else is a belief system? Okay. So government's a religion. Okay. Because you know, instead of God, you get government. Instead of church, you get court. Instead of tithing, you get tax. Instead of preachers, you get politicians. Instead of morality, you get legality. That's all the same stuff, right? And so now that's a lesser God than the God of creator. And then the lesser gods than government are like Walmart. Walmart's a lesser God. It's just a belief system. It's not real. Walmart isn't tangible. What is tangible? Well, the people that are all in a building that says Walmart on the outside, and they're all wearing vests that have Walmart on their vest. They're all pretending to be Walmart, but Walmart's not real. You know what I mean? It's just a belief system. And so when I'm in Walmart, I'm not thinking I'm in Walmart. Walmart's not real. I'm here, and there's other humans here, and I'm interacting with these humans. This is real. And it's okay that I'm in there and I use the vernacular, I'm in Walmart, because I'm just participating with their pretend game at that time, because it makes everything go smoother. Does that kind of make sense? I haven't really worked out well how to articulate all of the spiritual side of what I'm seeing. But bringing that back into, you know, the government thing is, government's all just an idea. And so when we get caught up with vernaculars, like a lot of people go, oh, I'm a traveler, I'm not a driver. I don't really care about any of that stuff.
Right,
because
that's statism. Yeah,
right. So like today, a man called me who I have a good working relationship with, and he said, I've got some product and I need it delivered down into Rio Vista. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And there's compensation involved. But who do I have to answer to in order to do that? Nobody. So I don't call me a driver. Even if I'm acting in in commerce, I still don't have to answer to anybody unless I've hurt somebody. And if you really want to break it down, everything is commerce, right? If you go over to your friend's house to spend good, what you're getting in exchange a stronger relationship. That's commerce. You know, everything's commerce, because just the act of living your life would be commerce, because everything we do is for a benefit. Right. So so I think there's times where it's good to just appeal to the humanity of it all and save the legalese for the courtrooms. Right.
Yeah, that's a good angle.
I'll oftentimes refer to police officers as a man wearing a police costume, right? Because it really is just a costume, and it's tied to their beliefs, which I've already, in my belief system, think that's fake. That's just a game that you're playing, and I don't care what game you play as long as you don't physically hurt me, my real self, right? And so what's real are the behaviors. And this is what you talked about earlier, where blaming the victim. I'm the victim in the situation. You stopped me under the threat of force and violence. I don't care what your motivation is. You know, if you're just a mugger in a back alley doing the exact same actions, your motivation doesn't matter. right? And so I want to look at what's real. What's real? You're threatening me right now, and what's fake is your belief in government, your legalities. And so sometimes I'll argue on the legal side of things, but I try not to, because that establishes that I'm playing their game.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, that's very powerful. That understanding it's a game. Their imaginary fiction is like Santa Claus. It's just, you know, figment. There's not real things. What real things are is self-ownership. We own this body, and you can do whatever you want as long as you don't harm somebody, as long as you don't aggress against somebody else. And so this is the truth, that the frequency is rising. People are starting to realize this, and they're starting to say, hey, man, what's going on? Property taxes, these licenses, these permits. And then the next step, because as you do civil disobedience and such, you get cited or you go to jail and you deal with these court issues. So some people say don't show up, do show up, play the paper game. And that's kind of some of the courses that we've done here with Clint and I, is like learning the paper game. And some people don't want to participate at all, you know? So it sounds like you are maybe in that camp as well, to say, you know what, I'm not going to show up. You forced me maybe to sign this contract under threat, duress, and coercion. And therefore this is an invalid contract. And if you want to get me, come physically get me, because I'm not afraid of your bench warrants. Is that your approach to how you're going to deal with the citation? Or feel free to share any strategy you might have that other people could benefit from on what you're going to do about this heinous code violation of traveling on your own property, on your own private matters.
So I'm not going to go to court. I have two strategies on how to deal with the situation. So the first strategy is, and I was waiting until actually after we've had this call, I'm going to reach out and contact the officer. A lot of the feedback I've gotten about that video has been, wow, that's the nicest cop ever. And I'm like, yeah, he was pretty nice. Like, I was very thankful he ended up so nice. So I want to reach out to him, and I want to invite him onto my Instagram page to do a conversation that we can have where I'm not feeling that I'm threatened, so I don't have to bite my tongue and not over explain or not over educate or something like that. And because I kind of get the sense of Matt, because Matt's a real man, and Matt is one of those, this is what I read, my read anyway. Matt is one of those men who had always idolized the police department, because that's how we're propagandized to do. And with nothing but altruistic intentions to better serve his community, has unwittingly to himself been sucked into a system that is an expert on hijacking good intention and using it for evil. To the point to where the people who are doing it don't even realize it. They're so deep into it, they can't see it. But I'm going to try and tap into his human side and find him by honor, because I think he values honor, or at least he thinks he does. And I'm going to say, Matt, look, if you don't come on my Instagram channel, make that citation go away. There's no reason cops should be looking for me and wasting their time. Right. I don't know if you'll do it, but that's my hope. My hope is he'll make it go away on his end. And so next time I get pulled over, there'll be no bench warrant. I'll never know, because I'm not even going to go look. I don't need to fill my head with that kind of fear. And then the other way that I'll deal with it, and this kind of leads into more of like an overall strategy as to how we on various levels free ourselves from this tyranny, and how we regulate a tyrannical government. So if they take me in by force, there's no way you can say I just walked in, right? I didn't come and surrender my jurisdiction. I didn't willingly come here and show up to be victimized in this stupid court, right? I'm here in handcuffs against my will, clearly. Okay. At that point, I will not accept any offers of any deals of anything, and I'll go only to a jury. And at that point, I will not accept any sort of legal representation. I will represent myself in court, and I'll do that because that way I will be part of the jury selection process. As much as they're trying to weed out liberty-minded jurors, I'm going to seek out liberty-minded jurors. And because all I need in criminal court is one juror to say not guilty, and then there's nothing they can do to me. They got to let me walk. The other reason to represent yourself is because when you represent yourself is the only time that their game rules let you talk to the jury on your own behalf. I do a lot of dive bar stand-up comedy, and I'm getting really good at talking to 12 people at a time and getting them to like me. So I'm practicing for
Good for
We
you.
when
want
I
your
end up in a court.
we want your
What's that?
we want your traveler jokes tonight. One or two. Come on.
Oh man, I'll get to that. We can get to some of those at
Slip
the
them
end.
in. Just
All right.
slip it in when we aren't expecting it.
Okay, I'll do it when I can there too. So anyway, so if I can speak to the jury on my own behalf, then again, now I have a good opportunity to get at least one person to plant one seed for someone to go, I can let this guy walk. I can let this guy walk. I can say not guilty. Why would I let the government punish this guy? You know, and I've got so much history now on my Instagram and documentation of my intentions. You'll never be able to paint a case that I'm dangerous. Never, ever, ever, because I'm not. Because I really don't know if I'll ever be successful in what I'm trying to do here. And on some level, to my personal life experience, doesn't matter, because I get to go to bed every night going, you know what? I live authentically to my belief system. I'm doing it. Let the consequences be damned, right? So anyway, so in all of American history, not once has a jury ever been found liable for their findings, right? So in fact, one time I was actually on a jury. I got to be the foreman of a jury, and it was a DUI case for a guy in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Yeah, he was mouthing off to a cop, rolling his chair home, and the cop, got his feelings hurt, and he got his feelings hurt and gave the guy a DUI. And so I'm the foreman, and I get to actually be the one to read the verdict, right? And so of course I'm not gonna find this guy guilty. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at him as I have the verdict in my hand, and you guys have no idea how good it felt to let this guy walk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was the punchline of a joke. Usually that one goes over well. I used
Oh,
that joke.
we forgot he was in a wheelchair. Sorry,
Yeah.
we were getting distracted with the joy notification side over here. But that's funny. Yeah, that's a harsh joke.
I like to use that one a lot because humor is a great way to try and educate people about real situations. And and my story's not real there, but the point is, the juries aren't found liable for their decisions. Prohibition in the 20s came to an end because juries stopped saying guilty on victimless related crimes. Right? Oh, possession of alcohol, not guilty. That was the war on drugs 1. We're in the war on drugs 2. If we want to end the war on drugs 2, what we need to do is we need to flood their dockets with trials by jury. A vast majority of people locked up right now on victimless related crimes took a plea deal. The judge said, oh, you don't want to go in front of a jury. They're a bunch of assholes. I'm going to do you a favor. I'm your friend. Here, take this deal and we'll bypass all the headache of having to go in front of a jury, and you just go straight to jail. And so they do that. But if they were to go in front of a jury, if we were to flood their dockets with trials by jury, and then all of a sudden juries start going, oh, possession of cocaine, not guilty. Possession of alcohol, not guilty. Possession of a firearm, not guilty. Oh, they didn't hurt anybody, not guilty. And if we overwhelm their docket with trials by jury, then we can increase the jury summons by 10x or more. And the more jurors that we get pulled into the jury duty, the more likely liberty-minded jurors can get their way through the jury selection process. And when their dockets are clogged, and especially if you got guys like me that are willing to do the extra headache of representing yourself, that's really going to slow down their gears. But if they've got case after case after case where overwhelmingly it's going not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, guess what? They stop regulating that behavior, because it turns into negative dollars and cents. They're not able to feed people off to the slave trade. I'm sorry, the industrial prison complex anymore.
Right. The real human trafficking that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
People,
Yeah, I was gonna say the trial by juries is a very powerful thing. You just got to have a big courage and big faith, and you're doing the right thing. And I think Mike Mattingly down in Santa Cruz beat his case trial by jury. But then I noticed this in my research and fight my own cases. I think it's 95, it might be 97% of guilty or people that get incarcerated is because they took a plea deal. So it's like 5% or less don't go to a jury trial because it's so terrifying, and the boogeyman in the closet's gonna ruin us. And but it just takes one guy, and like you said, if you represent yourself, They don't like dealing with you. And one of the techniques they've used on me and some other friends is to say, we don't think you're mentally fit or mentally well to continue with this. So we're going to appoint you a public pretender and, try to get you in that route. So they have all these little ways, but if you're nice and honorable and don't yell in the courtroom, don't call the judge names, and, be of good honor as a human, then they shouldn't do that. But I was being very peaceful, and they're like, challenging. I said, how do you have the authority to, put these charges on me? And I'm doubting your ability to be mentally well, these kind of things. So, so that's a good idea. So I got your story. The story that you said, that was the joke. That was one of the jokes you're throwing in there. Or were you really a foreman of a jury?
No, I was never. I've never. Every time, the last time I got called to jury duty, I really wanted to get on it. Every time in my youth, I got out of it. I did what everybody else did. I just said, oh, I don't want to waste my time, and got out of it. But the last time, I didn't even make it past the call-in phase. I got dismissed before I even had to show up to the courtroom. But I want to touch on something you just said. You touched on being peaceful, and even in front of the judge and stuff like that. And if we are truly sick of tyranny and we truly want to build a new system, we have to be peaceful, because war is the birth mother of government. Without war, there is no government. And this is why governments perpetuate war. They perpetuate suffering and poverty, because that perpetuates government. So, like even the American Revolution, right? So the Constitution is the most governmentally restrictive document that mankind had ever drafted. And even that has now led to the largest source of tyranny and warmongering and thievery that the world has ever seen. War is the birth mother of government. So if we want to have something different, then we have to change the way that we're interacting. So even if we were to have a revolution in this country, a violent revolution in this country, the best that we could hope for is to swap out one group of tyrants with another. And so we haven't changed anything. We're just going to keep going down the same historical loophole that we've been doing, where governments keep screwing their people over and murdering hundreds of millions of them. And so I'm committed to doing something different. And the peaceful part is so incredibly important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We got your experience. We got your philosophy, right? Which is deep. And I thank you. I have a sense of the extent of your journey, your spiritual journey, to have arrived where you are. It doesn't happen overnight. And
No.
It takes a commitment to pursue higher things. And so I really, really thank you and appreciate that very much. The distinction between what's tangible and what's immaterial is critical. And I can personally attest to my own spiritual journey has led me to keep those things very separate in terms of my choices on a daily basis. So thanks again for being here. We've got quite a few folks tonight. I recognize some of your names. Thanks for being here again, you guys. Some of you regulars. We'll be here every first Tuesday of the month, and I recommend that when you receive our email invitation, that you go ahead and turn around and send it out to all the folks in your life. Post it on social media. At the bottom of all of our emails is a link that takes that email and turns it into a web page. So all you have to do is copy that link, and you can put it on Telegram or Facebook, and it just puts all the information, the time and date and the registration link and everything all there together. It makes it really easy for you to share. That would help us not only get more folks to show up live, to really move this whole thing forward. No matter what we talk about on these calls, the variable in terms of numbers always seems to be the thing. We need to get more people, more people thinking like us, have people make that paradigm shift. Or for those folks who are already out there who see clearly this higher order of law and want to develop humanity, keep maturing and evolving to a higher order of law with us, we're here to create that space. So let's have it be a movement, if you will, and a joyous movement. So would you mind taking some questions and comments from folks? SteVAN?
No, I would love to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm personally looking for, as usual, just some basic legal distinctions and like a legal education. I know a lot of people here already know a lot of the fundamentals, for sure. But sometimes it's good to review them, and then having seen your interaction with this guy. I mean, you guys really, it was like a little mini class in about like what is a republic, what is consent, what is use of force. Basically you hit all of the basics in a really short period of time. So I wouldn't mind if it comes up, organically when you're responding to folks, to go ahead and insert some of those important legal educational moments, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Will
Okay.
do.
Hey,
Yeah.
Christy, how are
Oh, go
you?
ahead. Mhm.
Good, thank you, Clint. Hi, David.
Hey, Christy.
Yeah, I have some comments for our guest. And I, first of all, want to say it's quite amazing who you've become. I've never met you, but you're quite amazing to have gotten these spiritual downloads to be who you are and stand up for yourself and really know it. Because I've taken Clint's class and I'm involved with the American Assembly. I've kind of stepped back a little bit, American States Assembly. And I've done their paperwork and all kinds of things. And I've come into a little more knowledge on some different areas. One of them being, I felt the same way about being on a jury once. And since then, I have learned that our system is so flawed that we need to redo the system. And it is very rare that you would even win any of these court cases, because it's all about the bonds, and the longer they make it go, the more they get. I have a dear friend who's part of the American Assembly who went and knows his stuff. The judge tried to coerce him into, taking a deal, and they dragged him on for years, and he went for trial by jury, and it was all over whether he had to have a business license to have a church that was a healing church where they dispense CBD stuff and things like that. And he is now in jail. He did not win. They made him guilty, and he tried everything he could. I don't believe in the system anymore. I have some information about, I don't know what people think about the UCC1. You can file a UCC1. People charge to do it, but you can take yourself completely out of the system. And like you did, turning in your plates, I'm in the process of doing that, but I have some paperwork I have to send in for it. There's a lot of steps. Clint had some, and I've learned some other ones where you have to send for not just your birth certificate from where you were born and the county you were born, but you have to have it authenticated from the state you were born in by the Secretary of State there, and then the U.S. Department of Secretary of State, and get those cleared. And then you can mail in your plates or take them to the DMV. Same with the driver's license, like you did. But there's also, as far as them sending you a citation in your straw man name, that is fraud, because you are not that straw man. And anytime they send you anything like that, you can cross it out and write across it 18 USC 1341 frauds and swindles, and you just send it back. And that's what I've been doing the last few times from a ticket where I got pulled over, and he said I went crossed over the white line, and it's a long story, but
And they
I'm
dropped
trying now. So what?
They dropped your ticket after you did that?
I'm sorry?
Did they drop your ticket after you did that?
I don't know if they have. I'm just keep sending it back until they do, and then I've got some information of someone I had to pay money to through the Assembly, the American States Assembly, who does common law. She's a common law counselor. She has a whole DMV thing that she types up to the director of the DMV. And as we all know, the DMV is a private for-profit organization. It doesn't have anything to do with the government. The DMV is not the government. So you learn more as you go along. You obviously know a lot, and you know how to own your stuff. I think I'm not quite owning my stuff. Otherwise, I would have been able to talk to that officer that pulled me over. Plus, I was on my way to a gig, and I hadn't had any in so long that I just, went along with it, signed under duress. But there are some other things you can do that because that is not you. When if you look, it's assigned to your straw man name, and this supposedly works. I'm trying it for myself. I'm happy to share that information, but I'm also have some other people are helping me that I'm paying money to get me out of the system, and eventually I'm going to file a UCC1. The other thing, I know you didn't do the insurance, and we don't have to have the insurance. I agree with you. It's all bogus. But you can also buy a bond that isn't very expensive. I think it's a couple $100, and that stands as your insurance. If anything were to happen, you could do it for medical too, if you don't, because I don't do any medical. Anyway, I just wanted to share that information, and thank you all. I mean, David, you've been through the ringer. David Rodriguez, you are a star, an amazing man who's fought for all of our rights here. And I will never forget that party you had down at near the beach when the whole pandemic started, and you had the music, and it was a nice day in February. It was gorgeous.
That's right.
I want to thank you for that. And then thank you, Clint, for this. And you know, that you're all standing up for our freedom. And then you, beautiful man, SteVAN, that you're doing this because that's what it's all about. But I still think the system's flawed, and it's rare that you're really going to be able to fight the system, but hopefully you don't ever have to go back.
I would love to touch on that, what you just said right there. The system's flawed, and we're not going to be able to beat the system. And I think you're right. I mean, there's a real possibility that we'll never actually beat the game, because the game is rigged. It's like a casino game. But what we can do is we can break their game. And we break their game by enough of us showing that we're not playing it anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, you said I've learned a lot. And one thing I didn't touch on in you know, quote unquote, my origin story, at a point when I was trying to learn all this stuff, and I was trying to learn all the legalese and these codes, I was getting so frustrated because I'm wasting my time learning something I don't want to learn. If fraudulent contracts, so by their own rules, the only thing required to breach a fraudulent contract is to stop behaving in accordance with the contract. There's nobody to ask. There's nobody to tell. There's no permission to be gained. You just change your behaviors. And so you know, it's harder to be free. And I've done a lot of the things that you were talking about. I've taken control of my straw man, right? It's a trust. My all capital letters name, it's a trust with its own EIN. And I'm the secured party creditor. It's indebted to me because I sent off all that phony baloney fake game paperwork that I had to do. And I'll utilize a lot of these game loopholes that I know if we're not able to break the game. But breaking their system is so much better than just beating their system. And we can do that through synchronized, mass, decentralized non-compliance. And that was one thing I actually forgot to touch on was, you know, the one thing everybody needs to do, November 5th, 2024, that's the next presidential election. Show them you're done voting for them. You're going to vote for yourself, and you vote for yourself to run your own life by taking your license plate off. The idea of government is so backwards in the way that they do things. Everything they say is a lie, right? People want the government. Have you ever tried to explain anarchy to somebody, a world without government? And then inevitably they'll always say, well, you know what will happen is just the biggest gang will take over. And I go, you just described government. Like it's everything you're afraid of is what you're living right now. But we've got to show en masse. It's hard to not play their game when everybody else is complicit. But if we can start taking our license plates off at the same time, big show of force. When you're at a protest and all the police officers are in riot gear and group mindset kicks in, they look around at other people dressed in their uniform, and it tricks their mind into going, I need to behave like these other people are behaving. And so you can't reach the humanity of a police officer in riot gear. It's not going to happen. But when you're one guy on the side of the road with one guy, you can reach his humanity and not end up getting beat up, if that makes sense. So I would encourage you to continue to go down the paperwork trail that you're going down, but keep in mind that the more you do the paperwork, the more you're legitimizing their claim over you. If I have to file paperwork and ask you for permission to be free, I don't understand freedom.
That's right.
I'm not asking him for permission. I'm telling him by pulling out of their system. This is a slightly different. I mean, slightly. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to put the you. It was the generalized you, but at the same time, you don't even have to tell them. You're under no moral obligation to tell somebody who is trying to violate you that you're not going to let them violate you anymore. You get to just not let them violate you. You get to just walk away. Their own rules say all you got to do to breach a fraudulent contract is to stop behaving in accordance with the contract. So that's what I've done. I just stopped behaving in accordance with all their contracts.
Haven't you kind of found, though, that a lot of them aren't aware of the law? They aren't aware of the law. They only know their codes. They just hear like robots. And I read a thing recently where they're hiring a lot of low IQ guys because they want it that way. Because they're programmed.
It is very difficult. This is why it's important, if we really want to build a new system, if we really want to play a better game, a better co-op, a win-win game, right? We live in a world of abundance, and in abundance, we can have win-win. When there's scarcity, it's zero sum. And the government game is scarcity and it's zero sum, but it perpetuates because everybody keeps playing it. If we can move as one, we can leave this game and go play a much better one.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so again,
thank you.
I'm not saying don't go down the rabbit hole of trying to understand it. Just because if we're not able to break the game, you're going to need a lot of that paperwork and the ability to go, hey, no. You know, it's like when you're a kid and you're playing Monopoly for the first time, you're subject to the other person telling you what the rules of the game are. But once you actually pick up the game rules yourself and start reading them and understanding them, you go, wait a minute, he was screwing me there and they were screwing me over here. Like, nobody's been playing this game right. So continue to do that, but we need to move in unison as people and just go, hey, we're going to do one big show of force, right? And it is force, but it's not physical force. It's ideological force. And we show this big show of force. We're done being enslaved as U.S. citizens. And you know, your license plate is no different than a cattle tag in a steer's ear.
Yes.
It's the exact same thing. You know, and whenever I see a highway patrol on the side of the road, they always look like a predator on one of those nature channels.
They're a shark, like a great white shark behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
You know, and so again, I encourage you to keep going down the paperwork, but
his Instagram. Oh, he might want to give out email if he wants. You don't have to, but Instagram is at the model anarchist.
I sure hope you let me know, SteVAN, if you do end up having a public conversation with that law enforcement agent.
I will.
I would definitely send out an email to all the free traveler folks on my list so they can attend live.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
I want to make a comment about something you said in your video, SteVAN, about November 5th, 2024. So Clint and I have been co-producing this show for almost 2 years now, every month. And so we know, because this is the whole pandemic with the whole jabs and stuff, was like we saw in Utah, they were going to make you have a vaccine information connected to your driver's license. So some people think driver's license is not that big a deal. And it's the tip of the spear for people to accept the slavery system, whether the CBDC or the digital ID, you know. So it is a very significant thing, because what you said, and Clint put in the comments, which is so clear, change the behavior. Yes, they can say we're bound to this contract, but if we say, no, thank you, you know, what are you going to do? Take me to jail? And how long are you going to send me there? You know, at some point, non-cooperation, non-participation, this is almost the only way forward. And to SteVAN's point, is peace, you know, because maybe people have guns and you can rightfully defend yourself, but these guys are massive, violent, brain lost people, you know, no moral code, God bless their souls. They don't know what they don't know. So that might be something to, you know, co-create here, as you said, SteVAN, because in 1 year, my guess, God willing, Clint and I are still going to be here doing these shows, because we have a lot of people come on and we're sick of it, man. So it's like this non-compliance idea, people need to realize that when you're taking action, you are voting. So people say like, you know, I don't vote. Great. Okay. I don't participate in the voting booth, but what I vote in is my purchases and my time and my attention, my words, my videos, and these kind of things. You mentioned the stand-up comedy. I'm also playing around in some open mics too, and I invite people to get out there in the world. Yeah, so maybe in a year I'll have some good jokes. Right now I barely have, you know, 2 or 3 minutes of something, but we got to have these conversations because we're on the winning team. That's my point, was that there's a mass awakening. We know we're going to win. We're going to get through this like craziness, the fiat currency collapse and mayhem, but you know, make some relationships with people out there and understand not cooperating is powerful. And if, you know, we want to co-create this, Clint, what do you think, man? Like, That's 3 people in the present saying, November 5th, 2024, because what else are we going to do? We're going to eventually, people are going to say, I'm not going to participate in this criminal organization, and I am participating in it. So I'm not going to do it. And this November 5th date, I think, gives people something to shoot for, because it is crazy time in the next 12 months, whatever these crazy psychopath predators are going to do to like get us all terrorized, whatever is going to happen. But non-compliance, man, I love that, SteVAN.
Mass synchronized non-compliance.
Yes.
Mass synchronized non-compliance. Yeah, I can get behind that. And, you know, people always say they need time to work things out or to get their head straight or whatever. We can provide the support between now and November. You know, instead of focusing on candidates and the horse race that it is, you know, have people focus on their lives and their own obstacles, that some of which are material and some of which are immaterial, to remove, so that come November 2024, they can just say done and have it be a joyous thing rather than with trepidation.
Mm-hmm. You know, with the election cycle coming up, a lot of people are going to get into conversations about a lot of grassroots kind of politicians trying to come up to you know, change the government from the inside, and it's the right idea. If we want to change the system and break the system, we have to do it from the inside. But it doesn't happen from within political office. It happens from within the jury box. We need to be in the jury box if you want to make change. The jury nullification is how the masses peacefully regulate a tyrannical government. They can write any legislation they want, but if the jury say not guilty, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how we protect each other. That's how we protect the guys that are like you, David, and like Clint, and like me, and like the other people that are actually out there poking the bear. You know, and all we're asking other people to do, if you're not willing to come out and poke the bear with us, which it's a lot of fun, you should come do it. It's exciting. But if you're not willing to poke the bear, you could at least be a teddy bear and serve on a jury. You know what I mean? Because you're completely protected there. You get to say not guilty, and there's nothing they can do to you. Nothing.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yeah, you get to choose whatever mountain you're going to dedicate your contribution to, right? Understand there's different, players on the field, and everybody can contribute. You know, there's space for everyone. The one comment I want to mention about the idea of November 5th is because, do you remember, this must have been 8 or 10 years ago when TSA first started doing the body pat down? And there was a big awakening. I want to say like 2008 with like Ron Paul, and there was a big opt-out day during Thanksgiving because people were sick of the body scanning devices at the airport. And so people were going to opt out. There's a national opt-out day, and it was growing momentum. It was growing steam, and we're excited. You know, if you're flying that day, opt out. We're going to clog up the system. We're going to, flip the system through non-compliance. That day or that weekend, the TSA suddenly instituted no pat downs that day, no body scans for the weekend. And so this great buildup actually caused that change. So just think about November 5th, that one day we'll take our plates off. I did it for 3 years, and I got arrested multiple times and had videos and stuff. And
hold on, David, I'm not talking about one day. I'm talking about indefinitely.
It's over. You're saying it's over. All right.
It's over.
So right? It is. So it is. It is.
So TSA stopped, right? So you said TSA stopped for the weekend, but then they started back up, right?
Because the people didn't continue. That's right.
Well, and the people were centralized. When you centralize people, you can control them with very few other people, right? When we're all going about our regular life, the only thing different is in the morning we took a screwdriver and removed our license plate. We're decentralized. Right. When everybody's wearing TSA uniforms, that puts passengers in a psychological fear that goes, I don't want to mess with those guys. I can't mess with one of those. I mess with all of them. Right. And they know that, too. So the ones that want to be aggressive have the ability to be even more aggressive. The ones that really want to be an asshole can be even more of an asshole because they've got the backup from everybody else wearing the same uniform. But when we're decentralized, they don't know how to affect that. And their game kind of falls away. It was just me and Matt on the side of the road. There were no other cops there. There's nobody else in his uniforms, and we were humans. And so you take your license plate off, and not just for the day. We're not going back. I have no intention on going back. I really enjoyed Bob when he was on your show, and he said something so great. It's a good day to die. right? I am a character in God's imagination. You know, on a spiritual level, I'm connected to the source. The essence of who I am, we're talking about what's tangible and what's immaterial. The essence of who I am is immaterial. I am not my body. If I lost my arm, there wouldn't be less of me. Everything about who I am exists only within my thought. And the version of who I am in everybody else's head is different than the version of who I am in my own head. So I'm the only source of who I am, and it's immaterial. I'm just a character in God's imagination. So I can't die. There is no death. That's just part of this illusion. This body will die. The character will come to an end. But this is I'm immaterial in that sort, but I don't want to go back to that other game. So I'll play it until what comes. There's nothing I can do about how evil is going to be.
Yeah, that's the courageous path. This is what all the champions and men and women of human history have decided. At some point, you say, that's the mountain I'm going to dedicate this soul to. Nobody gets out alive, right? There's no easy way out, as they say, but there's a good way out. And to choose to say, this is the hill that I'm going to put myself on because I care about it. And maybe instead of dying, you know, at 80, 90, 100 years old, you know, you set it up today. And this is what the Native Americans, their warriors had this. And there's some spiritual truth of, I'm not this physical thing. I am a character, as you said, as we all are, and pick up these norms and cultural programming. But at the deeper spiritual realms, you know, we're connected to source. And perhaps my example, and Bob Dixon also, this is my temple. There is a spirit of God inside of me, or source or nature, something that's my personal thing, and everybody gets to choose their own personal thing. I'm not going to say your beliefs are wrong. I don't even know. We're just figuring this stuff out. And yeah, it's a good day to die. It's a good day to live. And this is, I think, the spirit where the courageous man, the courageous woman, they're saying, you know what? This is a great quote from Gandhi. He said, I'm willing to die for the cause, but I'm not willing to kill for it.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
Yeah, that's the essence of, like, you know what? You can take this thing, but like, even you can have my body, you can't have my soul. And this is kind of the spiritual tapping into that you've demonstrated, and everybody can do it. But you know, maybe take a look at SteVAN's videos again and find something there for you, and think about how you can participate in this. Maybe next year there's going to be this national, what was it, Free Travelers Day, or AKA No Drivers License Plates Day, because this is basically the throwing the tea in the harbor, right? Like the Tea Party, like the people are saying, we're not participating in it anymore. Take me to jail. And this might be one way to change the driver's license codes, or the statutes that they're trying to force all this victimless crimes on people.
What makes this different than the Boston Tea Party is the Boston Tea Party was a false flag. And this is actually a move towards something good. I mean, the government's been doing false flag shit since the beginning. They even teach us about it in school, you know. Yeah. But yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, it's not one day. We're done. We're done. You know, and regardless, even if I'm not successful enough in spreading this message, or we're not successful enough in spreading this message at this point, and November 5th comes and goes, and nothing's really changed, I'm still not getting a driver's license. You know, I'll do probably the US dot plates, or you know, I became an ordained minister after listening to Bob's, and so I'll just do what I can. But I'm going to do, I want to get to a point where we don't have to make any compromises. Like I told them why I have my passport, because I make little compromises because I got to navigate this crappy system. But it would be so much cooler if we all just broke the game.
I agree, man. I'm on board. I think Clint's on board. You got 3 of us here, and I think everybody else here is on board. You know, a few dozen people and the hundreds of people that will watch it later. This is now a permanent piece of media. We're sitting down to the interwebs that this is an idea whose time has come. And, you know, this is an idea from SteVAN, and we've been doing this free traveler stuff. So maybe we can actually cause some real change, because every month I always get so excited to hear the new voices and hear people's stories. And Portia, we're going to call on you. If you have any other questions, we got 30 minutes left. Some of the people, thank you, Christy, for your nice words and your contribution. I see Michael's here too. Portia, let's hear what you got going on. How are you been, and what questions or comments you have for SteVAN?
Oh, greetings, guys. What a fascinating conversation this has been thus far. Really titillating, for lack of a better word. Yeah, SteVAN, you are truly an anarchist. I like that. I got the sense in your conversation with the officer that he was a bit on the conservative side, wouldn't you say? Because he used certain words. I think, he when you mentioned that you homeschool your children, and he said he does the same, and he called us a republic. I think deep down, maybe he had some curiosity, but again, because he's been programmed in a certain way, in a certain belief system, you guys were kind of it's hard to get somebody to believe something that you do, and
Right.
for a little time there, I was wondering why you were proceeding in the manner that you were proceeding, and not and after I've listened to you, I understand now more why you handle it this way, because you were, like you said, dealing with the human, and you wanted to talk to the man and reach him from that place. I could see that you're very highly evolved and spiritual in that way. I think it's a good thing. But one comment I would like to say with regards to, what it is, we are all wanting to do and see change in this very broken system, is that it can't be fixed. The fact is that it is broken at the core. It is rotten. It's a system that's meant to enslave. And it's interesting that you said the DMV is one of the agencies that most keep people in poverty. I've never thought of it that way, but that's very, very true. Here in the Northeast, where I am on the land in New York, they're relentless with the speed traps and the red light cameras, and it's nonstop. As you guys well know, I've been dealing with a case where I've been fighting them on that level. But the system is broken, and I think the more of us exit the system and not comply, that probably would be more of a results where people, because it's going to be hard to get people to embrace this. They don't understand. They've been indoctrinated for generations and generations and generations. So it's very, very difficult. But those of us who are awakening slowly, what Clint and David here is doing, and more of us are waking up, then yes, there may come a point that this will continue to spread more and more and more. And I do see it happening. I don't know what you guys think about the recent election in Argentina. They're saying that guy Milei, he is like the Trump of Argentina, because he's totally wanting to destroy that system, including their central bank, which is huge, So, it has to be broken down and rebuild. I don't see us, fixing that system in any way. It's got to be broken down. And I think one of the ways for us to do that is, as you say, SteVAN, is for us to exit it and not participate. And it's going to be tough to get us to do that in a large, massive way. But as you said, from the grassroots, little by little, I think we will be able to make that change. Did you see how the officer was almost offended when you said that you didn't vote? They believe that us not voting is a part of the problem.
Right.
And not a part of the solution. They firmly believe that. And I know that a lot of people, I said, once I've learned about this system, I recognize to vote in it is to participate and to condone it, but they don't see it that way. They think voting, is fixing it. But it's like you said, there is no difference between that red and that white. Yes, there might be some difference in values and approach, but the end result for we the people is the same. Is the absolute same. So I think what you're doing is extremely courageous, and
Thank you.
Really, really admire you and your strength. You're actually even calling it in by having that plate on there. It's like, yeah, pull me over. I think
Well,
that's
now I'm telling myself every day when I get in the car that I'm invisible. I'm done calling it in. I need a break for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so, because I don't think, while I'm on that journey to give up my, plates and rescind the license. And I'm taking it very slowly because I don't want it to attract attention to myself, because I don't want to have to deal with them. If I do, I am firmly willing to stand and be my authentic self for who I am. And I so agree with you. We are not this avatar body. This is just our shell, and we have to get rid of the fear.
Well,
and that's what controls us more than anything, is the fear.
Getting rid of the fear. This is a big aspect to why it needs to be coordinated, why we all need to have the same day to go, hey, we're going to take our license plate off on this day, because then that slows the fear down. If nationwide, so we've got over 200 million cars in this nation, okay? And if we only had 7 million of the 200 million cars take their license plates off, I mean, what is that? That's less than 5%, right? A little under 5%. They only have a little under 700,000 full-time police officers nationwide. If we had 7 million, less than 5% of the cars out there take their license plates off, we outnumber the cops 10-1. The danger goes down, and when the danger objectively goes down, the fear goes down.
Yes.
And those of us who do get picked up, we stay calm. Hey, man, I think the government sucks. Please don't punch me in the face. Please don't smash my window and steal my car. But if you're going to do it, I'm going to leave my window up. I'm not rolling it down. You're gonna have to show me I'm willing to get beat up for my beliefs, but you're going to have to show me you're willing to beat me up for your beliefs, kind of what David was saying earlier. But yeah, we need to remove the fear from the situation. I've, for whatever reason, don't know why, I've just released a lot of fear that I held over and apprehensions that I've had about behaving this way. But I know more and more people will join as more and more people join. It's a I am Spartacus kind of moment where the more people that stood up, the faster more people stood up.
Right. The thing is too, the vast majority of even that less than 5% believe that it's okay. We do need that license and that sticker. We need more people exposed to the truth.
They can believe that they need it, and feel free to go to the DMV and keep paying them. Just don't hold a gun to my head and make me do it.
Absolutely. I certainly agree with you. Are you familiar with the book, The Most Dangerous Suspicion? Have you heard of it?
So that was one of the most, Larkin Rose in that book. And then, of course, the Jones Plantation, the short film and the feature-length film, those were all very wildly powerful in the beginning of my waking up. And in fact, his analogy between Santa Claus and government, I've spurred that into one of the jokes I use on stage. I know that book very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to get that book out to more and more people, and then we'll get more people on our side to, have the courage to take the plates off and know that it's okay, and we're actually doing good instead of bad. Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, thank you for your presence this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, thank you,
Portia. Yeah, I want to make a comment on the Larkin Rose book. That was very powerful. The Most Dangerous Superstition. And for me, maybe some other people out there, I'm curious, SteVAN, if you read Lysander Spooner, The Constitution of No Authority, did that ever make an impact on you?
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay, that's very powerful. 1870, that one rocked me at my world. He basically points out the Constitution is a one-way contract that has no authority. And then For a New Liberty, for Murray Rothbard, he talks about how a free society would work. How would we go about the roads, national security, and all these big things? Because I had to justify it in my own mind. I'm thinking, well, what if there are no cops, right? What if there are no fire people? Like, how are we going to be safe? Well, public safety is a natural desire that everybody has. So we want to know who the predator is. And they wrapped up the cops in these uniforms and the statism that we think that these robbers and extortionists are our friends. And the extortionists don't even know that they're committing these heinous crimes against people.
Yeah.
Property tax is going to be one of the worst ones. But just so people know, they say that, like in your video with Matt, the officer, he say, well, your registration pays for the roads. No, it doesn't. My research has shown that there's a gas tax in every gallon. I want to say 5 to 6%. And so the roads are paid for by the 5% a gas tax in the gallon. So it has nothing to do with registration, but they have this mythological belief that they're like saving people. And it's like, okay, how to get these books out. I'm so glad that the Jones Plantation came out. And I think that's the way forward, you know, through comedy, through drama, through long story movies and these types of things. We're on the winning side. This is, I think, what you said earlier, like the great day to die. That really is what it is. If you get to the ledge and you're like, this is worth it, you know, and you're not going to die in jail. Maybe you'll get a citation and then you can choose to not show up. And of course, there's might be a headache there at that point. But at some point, we got to realize that we are participating in it. And it is liberating. I got to say, those times I got arrested and those times I just had like a moral conversation with cops. And sometimes they let me go. And I felt such like a hero in my own life to my own self. Like, you know what? I talked this cop down. And I said, you know, the politicians are making you do this. I know you're a good guy, but it's the politicians are making you do this. And I don't want to do this. The politicians are making me do this. So I'm a victim of the politicians and you're a victim of the politicians. Victims shouldn't fight victims. Wouldn't you agree? You know, kind of this type of thing to find the morality in the conversation. And he did let me go. So there's power in the spoken word. There's power in the intentional peaceful demeanor that you've given. And I think this, this is a great way people can start demonstrating it. And safety in numbers. So maybe November 5th, 2024 is the day. And someone said that's November the 5th of December. So did that by chance be that way, or just the election day turned out to be that day?
That kind of blew my mind when I realized, oh, it's remember the 5th of November from V for Vendetta. But I just thought the day of the election would be the most symbolic, but maybe it's just the universe lining up in that regard. Hey, I want to touch on two things real quick. So the first thing, one thing I'd like to tell people, because a lot of people try to wrap their head around how do roads get built? How does law enforcement happen? How does justice happen? There is absolutely nothing that. Okay, so it's natural for humans to organize ourselves, our societies, into hierarchies, and there are two types of hierarchies. There are hierarchies that are based on force, and there are hierarchies that are formed through competence and cooperation, right? There is nothing that society needs that a hierarchy based on force will ever be able to provide more efficiently or cheaper than a hierarchy based on mutual cooperation and voluntary interaction. And the reason why we know it would actually be voluntary if we were to remove force from it is because as humans, we're all very cooperative. We would never have been able to ever work together to build any sort of systems if we weren't cooperative. We're generous. If we weren't generous, crowdfunding wouldn't be a thing. There'd be no charities, right? We're generous. We're cooperative. We take care of the environment when we're not poor. We live in a world of abundance. We know how to be humans, right? Dogs know how to be dogs. Birds know how to be birds, and people know how to be people. And if we were to foster those interactions, we could build this into a much funner game for everybody to be playing than what we're doing now. And everything that you're afraid of in the absence of government is exactly what government's doing. And everything that government is pretending to give you, a hierarchy based on voluntary cooperation would give you more, 1,000 times more, infinite amounts more.
That's right. Yep. I love when the people point out how difficult the roads are when it's just like a flat earth, flat ground. And like, meanwhile, we have cell phone technology that are all voluntary, free market, you know, people exchanging goods and labor and services. And you look what government creates, democide, death by government, you know, over 160 million, I believe, in the 20th century. And you have voluntary people. And now I think there's more civil asset forfeiture done by the state than private crimes now. And of course, war is only done by the state. So you can see the moral superiority of voluntarism, voluntary relationships, voluntary interactions. Anarchy, you know, just means without a ruler. It means I rule me and you rule you. So I'm with you, SteVAN. Like after I've done enough digging and find like the solid ground that this natural law is, it's like, okay, seems to be the starting point for humanity to find its self again. And when people say they got to get back to the Constitution, I said, no, we got to get beyond the Constitution, man, because it went from the monarchy to the constitutional republic and now to voluntarism or anarchy or whatever one calls it. But it's about self-ownership and consensual relationships. And I think the point you mentioned earlier about everything's commerce, I think this is also part of the awakening too. Like, oh, we're all CEO and president of our own business called ourself, and we get to engage in any type of contract that we choose. Forget the licenses, the driver's licenses, the medical licenses, all these hundreds of licenses, I think, and even permits to fix your own roof or to, you know, put a garden in your front yard. It's like, hey, folks, it's time to shake ourselves up from the slumber and realize that the people listening now and people afterwards, like, this is the way forward for sure. And once we have this conviction, then we're like, okay, you know, we'll stand up. But we definitely got to get the message out. So it's a great joy that you shared that tonight, SteVAN.
You know, and the funny thing about like the licenses and the permits, right? A lot of people believe that these government codes keep us safe. Like building codes keep us safe. But what all government codes and all government licensing does is it actually slows innovation down to a crawl, because now nobody's allowed to innovate. It's against the code. Well, who's writing the code? Well, the guys holding the guns. You know, I forget why I brought that up, but you mentioned permits, so it jumped in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's the permits and licenses are the rights that the government steals and they sell back to us. And that's, of course, driver's license and all these things. So this is the truth.
That's you saying, I want to play your game. I don't want to play their game anymore. I don't need their licenses because I don't want to play by their rules. Their rules suck.
That's right. Yep. You can do non-cooperation, or like Bob Dixon uses the church as a possible shield, and maybe like Christie brings nationals in or whatever. Find something, but definitely the conversation and knowing there's different paths to freedom. And this is the great surge of awakeness and consciousness about self-ownership that we've been looking for. And we can see that the left side is just as bad as the right side, and they're all participating in the school system, in the war, and you know, so this is, I think, part of the, you know, way forward is to not participate and not comply. And as Clint said, you know, synchronized mass compliance, non-compliance would be very powerful too. And this is how we do it, planting seeds and putting the stuff out there. And, you know, you have a good following on Instagram. So, you know, a lot of people are watching you and looking for these types of encouraging things. And maybe that's something we can discuss later, you know, build up, you know, for in the summertime or something where it's like, it's coming. It's coming. You guys ready for it? We're going to do it. You know, take it off for a day and then maybe 2 days and maybe all forever. You know, SteVAN, he's going to do it with or without you. He's going to take it off. So might as well be part of this epic 2024 bonanza, this festival. And just like the government has these national days or worldwide days, we got National Take Your Plates Off Day. You know, wouldn't that be an exciting thing?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it'd be great. The more and more people that start film yourself. You don't have to wait till November 5th to take your license plates off, by the way. But yeah, if people started filming themselves and putting it on their own social media, letting others know they're going to participate, get the ball rolling.
Beautiful. Any other questions out there? I want to talk to the man of the hour who is exercising his freedom. Any questions or advice maybe you want to share with them, SteVAN? Seems like in the last, you said 4 or 5 years, you've kind of come to this clarity about freedom and the incongruency of government. Any thoughts for people that are still thinking that government is a legitimate institution, that maybe could help them get beyond the idea of the Constitution? And you mentioned before, the key thing is that the just powers of government are derived from the consent of the governed. So if the first conversation in any relationship is not about consent, then the relationship is invalid. It's a coercive relationship and therefore unnecessary and undesirable. What are your thoughts about talking to constitutionalists out there, or maybe other people that would like to, you know, believe that voluntary relationship is the way forward, but they still think, you know, there's got to be somebody in charge, you know, to keep everybody in line, or it's going to be, you know, chaos out there?
Yeah, there's with those people like libertarians in particular, I'll just have the conversation of whatever you want to provide with government should freely, you know, a healthy society would provide for itself on a voluntary basis. We never have to force. We don't have the right to force other people into behaviors, no matter what. When the person hasn't hurt somebody else. right? There's obviously a deeper conversation to be had about when it's applicable to apply force when you see somebody victimizing somebody else, of course. But I would, so, you know, I kept saying game a lot today. And I like to think about words that we use commonly all the time and really think, well, what does that actually mean? And game is one of these words early on that I came up to. Like, I made the definition very clear in my head. And a game is simply a list of rules that you modify your behavior around to achieve a goal. And so when I started thinking like that, I see everything's a game. You know, the game we're all playing is the survival game. So you eat, you get shelter, you get community. Those are the three things you need for the survival game. You know what I mean? And then everything's a sub game after that. And so the vernacular is very important. That's one thing I really focused on, was the vernacular, the way I was using words. You know, there's an English speaking community somewhere, I think in the Northern European world, where they never say I am sad. They say sadness is upon me. And when you say sadness is upon me, you're not embodying it. You're not declaring what you are. Yeah, you're saying, oh, that's no different than a jacket being on me. You know, when I was a cigarette smoker, one of the way I was finally able to quit was when somebody offered me a cigarette, instead of saying I'm trying to quit or I'm not a smoker anymore, I just say I'm not a smoker. There's no anymore, none of that. When a craving would hit, I would go, you know, in my previous attempts to quit, I would get a craving, and then I would just keep telling myself, oh my God, I want a cigarette so bad. I want a cigarette. I want a cigarette. And then the time I was able to quit, when the cravings hit, I said, this feeling means I don't want a cigarette. Because every time I choose to have a cigarette, I'm choosing to have this feeling again. And this feeling tells me I don't want that. And that switch in my vernacular helped. Everything about your life is manifested by the thoughts you focus on and how you define those to yourself. Right? If the only word you had was angry, then whether you stubbed your toe or somebody ran over your dog, you're the same level. You're angry. Right? But if you know you're perturbed, you know you're a little upset, now you have more ability to describe a range of ways to be and then act accordingly. Right? We act out what we truly believe about ourselves. So if I believe that I always get angry and I punch a wall, then I'm going to continue to get angry and punch a wall.
That's right. Yeah, this is the really the vibration frequency of consciousness and language. You know, Clint knows, as a transformational man, through language we create our reality. And so by calling, I think Confucius said, to call something by its real name is the beginning of wisdom. So when we start calling out government what it is, when we start calling out this citation, this forced contract on the side of the road, or being imprisoned or jailed for a nonviolent crime, being kidnapped, right, being extortion, this is, I think, how we can move forward, because it is that simple to call out what it is. We're not saying like you're intending that way. We know you're in the program. You know, you're Mr. Smith in the Matrix. The Matrix has taught you that you're allowed to pull people on the side of the road, and we're Neo. You're Neo out here. We're trying to, you know, dodge the bullets. And that's when he realized it was all a game. You know, the Matrix was like his thoughts and his beliefs created these things. And this is why, you know, government is a terrorist organization, because they intend to cause terror in other people for not complying and doing these types of things.
And to be a terrorist, the definition of terrorist is using threats of force and coercion, especially against civilians. And that's exactly what the government does. But I'll tell you this. So what you said like Matt, he doesn't know he's the bad guy. His awareness is not he's not adopting, I am doing something wrong. He's saying, I am doing something right. But his spirit knows he's doing something wrong. And the reason I believe that is because the level of domestic violence and alcoholism throughout the police department is huge, of guys or girls that became that way after joining the force, because their behaviors are not in alignment with their actual spirit. It's in alignment with their belief system, but their belief system is sick. Belief systems based on force are sick. We're a sick society. We can't we can't cure symptoms of sickness. We can only cure the sickness itself. With guys that do more tyranny, it gets worse. You know, why do you think veterans have such a high suicide rate? When they get back, they can't comprehend how they were able to do the terrible things how were they convinced? Because they didn't go in trying to be that way. They didn't go in wanting to do that, but if war were our natural state, if we were truly violent people, if our spirits thrived in violence, we wouldn't have expressions like war is hell, right? War would be paradise, you know? So we know that their behaviors are in the wrong because it's reflected amongst their community. People like us, we're not out there punching people. We're keeping our obligations that we freely make with other people, because we are making them with other people that are keeping their obligations to us. And you know, there's so much less of all the sickness of society within groups like us, right? There's a lot less infidelity. There's a lot less absent parents. There's a lot less theft. There's a lot, right? Why is that? Well, because we're living in a way that's in accordance with what our spirit is. And our spirits want good. You know, the metaphor for that is like the relationship between God and Satan is the same as your relationship between your consciousness and your body. Your body wants all the things Satan wants: drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And your consciousness wants connectedness, community, to feel safe, to feel loved, to be around people that make you feel good. You know, and so your relationship with your body is constantly like that. And so when we fall in alignment with our consciousness, with the God side, we become better people. We're free humans, not humans raised in captivity. Animals raised in captivity are always shittier versions of the same animal raised in the wild. And we need to go back to being wild.
Another great quote.
Thanks.
That's like, is it like you're just so many great quotes tonight, and yeah, I want to write that one in the chat too. I'm trying to capture them in chat, so at least, you know, but you know, maybe you have them already in a binder where you keep all your good ones. But you know, we're pretty much coming to the end of our time tonight, and I'm so grateful. I'm full of gratitude for everyone being here tonight and for your special juju, your special, you know, energy tonight. It's really great. It's so it's contagious, you know. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, freedom rising. Woo!
I do like to tell people the first thing you teach yourself as a human, or amongst a few things, is how to get from here to there. It's that important. It's one of the first things you learn, and it shouldn't be restricted ever.
Yeah, just as natural as walking and jogging and running, we are allowed to be in a motorized car and move. The right to travel is paramount. And this is what the 15-minute cities are about too, you know. So they're going to say you got to be in a certain way. No matter what they say, your restrictions are in your little area, you're allowed to travel. And you want to start talking to your neighbors and letting them know we have a right to travel. It comes from God, life and liberty from the creator or source or whatever you believe in. And talk with people. This is the conversation, and it's rising. You see SteVAN did it, and I've done it, and other people here have done it. We had a lot of people on, you know, who was on? Ryan Thor. He did a great encounter online, and we interviewed him a few months ago, and we got his feedback afterwards and his thoughts and how he would go about it and what he wouldn't go about it. But free people exercise their freedom, and you know, we've been taught to be passive individuals. So now this is rising. We got to exercise our freedoms, change the behavior, and this is what part of SteVAN's message was tonight. And we're so grateful you got to show us and share some of these insights. Clint's got some quotes that you got there. Yeah, use the words, you know. We're no longer in a cage. We're free individuals. Let the wild man out, let the wild woman out, and be free and have no fear, have faith, and knowing we're going to win. We are going to win for sure. There's an event in January called the Greater Reset, and there's Exit and Build, and there's other events. There's a lot of things happening and gather in Acapulco in February. All these different places to go meet people like-minded, not just online, but in reality, and learn their tactics and begin to, you know, practice this beautiful sacred art of self-ownership that comes from the most high divine creator of all time.
Wonderful. Let that be our final words. Perfectly said, and a perfect point to the evening. So I thank everyone once again. I'm going to say good night. Everyone, you can, if you want to open your mics, you can shout out goodbye, thank you, blessings.
Safe travels.
Safe travels.
Great job, Steven. Nice hearing you tonight. Great job, everybody.
Happy trail.
Next month.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Safe travel.
Happy trail.
SteVAN. Thank you, everyone.
Blessings.
Good night, sweetheart. Good night.
Bye.
Get along, little doggy.